Scotland for the opportunity to consider today the important issue of service delivery in the event of post office closures. I congratulate the honourable member for securing this debate and for highlighting the case study, the features of which I recognise only too well. Post offices play an enormously important role in the lives of communities across the UK, and nowhere is that perhaps more evident than in constituencies like mine, where there are many remote and rural communities. Indeed, in many communities in my constituency, the post office is the heart and soul of the village, and for many people, the only means to interact with the outside world in terms of not only postal services and parcels, but also in terms of banking and accessing business services, submitting identity documents, obtaining a passport or driving licence, accessing cash, building up a modest savings account, receiving pensions and collecting benefit entitlements. In delivering this important, crucial range of services, I appreciate the challenges that the Post Office faces, and I appreciate the aim of the Post Office, that is, working hard to ensure its services remain accessible as possible, particularly for older and disabled customers. Between March 2001 and March 2015, 531 of Scotland's post offices were closed. That's equivalent to over 27% of all post offices being lost in Scotland. That's clearly more than 1 in 4. Each of these closures is a disaster for the local community, depriving communities of the means to interact with the world in the ways that I've described previously. On the 8th of November 2015, just a few weeks ago, the Mail on Sunday published an article stating that there had been a large number of temporary post office closures in rural villages and towns around Scotland. Figures obtained by the paper showed that 90 post offices in Scotland are now officially registered as temporarily closed. I say temporarily, although a third have been closed for more than 5 years. Commenting on this sad fact, a consumer spokesman for Citizens Advice Scotland recently noted, "Local post offices are vital for remote and rural communities as consumers and business there can face difficulty in travelling to alternative branches." The paper noted that new figures provided by the Post Office under Freedom of Information Law demonstrated that as of the 31st of March 2015, there were 1,492 post offices in Scotland, of which 1,402 remained open. Of the 90 classed as temporarily closed, 77 were in rural areas, several of these in my constituency. Of these temporarily closed post offices, 34 have been closed for 5 or 6 years, 6 have been closed for 4 years, 2 closed temporarily for 3 years, a further 7 for 2 years, and 14 have been closed for 1 year. Within the last year alone, 27 post offices have closed across Scotland temporarily. The effect of these closures is dramatic. It's dramatic not least because many of these post offices have evolved to take on responsibility for delivering a range of banking and business functions in addition to the traditional post office role. This evolution has taken place because many of the banks operating in the UK are implementing a programme of branch closures and reduced opening hours in many communities. In the rural areas of my constituency, this often means that the local post office is the only available financial service provider within a 60-mile radius. It goes without saying that where the banks have closed and the post office follows, communities are left in grave circumstances. This situation is far too common, as we have heard. We have to be clear, Mrs Gillan, that accountability for the post office network lies with the UK Government, which has a responsibility to ensure post office services are available for Scotland's rural communities. In these communities, there is no alternative to post office services. The Postal Services Act 2011 set out the minimum requirements of the universal service obligation. These are the requirements that the Post Office must deliver. These are statutory requirements and can only be altered with the consent of the UK Parliament. The minimum requirements are at least one delivery of letters every Monday to Saturday at every address in the UK, at least one collection of letters every Monday to Saturday, postal services at affordable uniform tariff across the UK, a registered item service at an affordable public tariff, an insured item service at an affordable public tariff, a free-of-charge postal service to blind or partially sighted people, and free carriage of legislative petitions and addresses. While the Post Office posts and postal services are reserved to the UK Government under the Scotland Act 1998, the Scottish Government is committed to strengthening the long-term sustainability of the post office network in Scotland, consistent with the National Performance Framework. Recognising the importance of postal services, the Scottish Government has determined to provide funding to local post offices to maintain their crucial service delivery through, for example, the Post Office Diversification Fund for Scotland. The objective of the fund is to contribute to the regeneration of deprived urban areas by sustaining and improving post office branches on the margins of viability that provide socially important services and facilities that act as an anchor for other retail activity. These objectives clearly apply to rural areas also. In 2011-2012, for example, post offices across Scotland received funding upwards of £25,000 individually awarded to various outlets for a variety of improvements, including refurbishments, improved security, retail equipment and so on. The Scottish Government recognises the valuable social role of post offices, particularly in deprived and remote areas of Scotland. That is why the Scottish National Party continues to promote innovative approaches to delivering public services through post offices. We want to support local authorities, local enterprise networks and third sector organisations in working together to find sustainable solutions which place post offices at the heart of community-based services. The UK Government must do all in its power to protect rural communities from the destructive impact of post office closures. Post offices perform a vital service in many areas of the UK. They have a pivotal role to play and are often the only place that letters and packages can be sent and received, bills can be paid, cash withdrawn, savings deposited, and for communities that often as not do not have internet connections, these services are essential in every meaning of the word. Scotland has many very remote and rural households and communities, and like other communities in other countries in the UK, should not have vital services taken away from them. And I call on the UK Government to improve strategy and policy and secure post offices for communities across the UK, but particularly in remote and rural areas.